What is this?
All right, I think we are live. Hi, everybody. This is Sunil Dasgupta, and welcome back to our Thursday evening chats. Today, we are going to talk about learning pods, and we have a bunch of parents and teachers with us, and hopefully we'll get a few more join as the evening goes forward. First of all, we have Erica Blair, who has 2 kids, and she has tried to set up a pod and has had some regulatory roadblocks. And so we'll talk about that. We have Sai Maji with us, who is who works with NIH with children and children's issues, but is also a parent of 2 kids, and she wanted to get organize a pod, but then backed away from it. And we also have Asha, who has a group together, but recently lost the teacher they were going to hire. So we have various different experiences with pods, and of course we have Mr. Karmi. Mr. Karmi was my son's social studies teacher in 7th grade, and so I'm very grateful to him for teaching my son. And he is also very entrepreneurial, and he has started a tutoring business to supplement what goes on in virtual school. So, who wants to take this first? What is a pod, and what is the attraction of a pod? Why do we do it?
So I actually first learned about these learning pods, I would say about a month and a half ago. I saw that article that you sent out. It was actually like an article that talked about, I think there were people in California, right, that were starting these micro schools and learning pods due to the school shutting down, and they needed support for their children's education as they're trying to navigate the virtual schooling for their kids. And so I was like, wow, this is really a interesting solution. The dilemma my husband and I had, we both work full time, and once we got word that the schools were gonna go 100% remote, it was very concerning because we both have to work full time, and we didn't know how we were going to manage our kindergarten. They're 5 years old going into kindergarten, our children's virtual instruction during the day while we're working, because it's the same hours we work. So that was really challenging. So I looked into possibly hiring like a private teacher, and the cost is expensive when you hire a certified private teacher. So to make it affordable, you would have to kind of split that cost with another family or 2. And so I was looking at doing something like that, and I was like, wow. And there are a lot of interested families that are also looking for that. So it's quite, it's a solution for everybody. It's a solution because there's a lot of teachers. Actually, the teacher I found was my children's, they were attending a private Montessori school previously up until the school shut down in March. And the school laid off a lot of the teachers. So I reached out to their teacher and just said, do you know anybody? I didn't know she was available. And she's like, oh, she's available. She still didn't get hired back from the school because the school did eventually open back up, but it's not running at full capacity. So they couldn't hire all the teachers back because they could only have a limited amount of students. So a lot of the teachers from that school are still laid off. And so, I was gonna put this together, had families that were interested. And then I saw people posting about the legality of it in Maryland. And I was like, wait a second, is there regulations regarding this? I didn't realize that there was such a thing. So people kept saying there is. So I reached out to
Maryland. Hold that thought for a sec.
Okay.
I'm gonna come back because this is important, because people need to hear that very clearly, right? If you're watching us on Facebook and you want to share it out, have a watch party, share it out with your network, that'll be great. We would really appreciate that. That's the way we reach out to, we can reach out to more and more people. So So I think the attractiveness of pods in part is because you want to have a contained germ pool, right? I mean, that's what you want. You want safety and you want the education, right? So
Right.
pods seem to be a way to get both, right? Safety and education. You didn't have to make a choice. And so that's what it makes it so attractive, right? The problem is that, well, I'm going to ask Sai. She's going to talk about, she's been an immunologist, and I think she has some views on that.
So you bring up a very good point. Safety is the reason why a lot of families are thinking of pods. But again, this is where the questions about, so there's 5 or 6 families that you're assuming the children are coming and staying in one house. And you have a person who's a teacher who is coming from outside, of course, and he has probably contact with someone else. So essentially, you get the picture. Like it's not a self-quarantine situation where your child is limited to your own house remotely and not in contact with any other kids or the kids' families. So let's get this going. And you're in the pod. 2 weeks have gone by. There's been a weekend. One child or one family of that child went to Delaware for something, wedding, something, beach trip, whatever. They have visited other people, come back, and they've come back to your pod. They may reveal this, they may not reveal this. It's completely harmless. They are entitled to take their vacation or do whatever they want on the weekend. So outside of the pod, we are not aware of who these people come into contact with. So we call it in scientific terms, tracking and tracing. We cannot track and trace these kids and who they interact with or the teacher who he or she interacts with. So that's one big issue with infectious diseases. We want to know who you've been in contact with. If there were absolutely no cases, we can do that very easily. That's how we call patient 0. This is the first person. He came in contact with patient 1, 2, 3, 6. And then you go so on and so forth. But right now, with the way things are, there's no way for us to know who starts the infection and how it's going from one person to another person. Imagine it kind of like a blue light shined upon your hands when you've touched things, and you don't know where you've touched unless you shine the blue light. Yeah.
I definitely agree with what you're saying. My family takes very strict measures for COVID protocols. So I mitigated that risk by the teacher. I already know the teacher, and I did send the teacher like a survey, like a COVID risk profile, and first got a sense of where she is. We're definitely on a strict level, and so is she. After talking with her, she follows the same. Like that means strict means you don't really socialize with anybody outside of your household. That's it. You're not. Everybody's working from home. Everybody's within the home. You're not. So I also sent this to other families. I only was selecting families that also were following very strict COVID protocols. So that means they're not, going on vacation. They're not going to weddings and stuff. I mean, there are families, you get back various results, but if you want people that are following the same thing as you have to survey people, get to know these people and really kind of understand.
They have to be committed to this.
They have to
really be committed to this.
So how do you, I mean, is there an agreement in place?
I know, right? Like, how do you make them committed? That's where I stopped. I said, I can't force you to. And God forbid, I have to go somewhere. Then
they have the same fears as you. If you're fearful, you need to find people who are just as fearful as you, that are just as scared as you. Those are the type of people, not the people that are just like, okay, I'm gonna go to this restaurant and eat it. No, that's not the people you find. But if you want a pod that's like that, if you're like that, then you need to find families that are like that, who are willing to be on that level. So you find people who are on the same level as you. That's how I see these pods running. People, you have to be on the same comfort level. There's a trust factor. So, I mean, there are people that are more liberal. So those people need to pod together. There are people that are more strict. Those people need to stick to their strict pod. So,
all right, George, you have a question.
Yeah, also to jump in, it's pretty interesting what Erica said. Basically, so I run an online tutoring business, and I've been getting a lot of feedback from parents who are actively looking for support for their students. And primarily it's elementary school kids, and it's mostly focused on literacy. That's the big hit for basically what they're looking for. A tutor that reached out to me, a friend from high school, is also a teacher, was a teacher at a private school, and she felt very uncomfortable having to go back to school. As you guys have seen in the news going back and forth, private schools are forced to go back while public schools are virtually learning. So she felt very uncomfortable by this. She's like, I have a high risk child. I don't want to go in the building. George, can you link me up with the family in regard to setting up a pod? And being honest with you, as a pod, it is appealing as a teacher. There's some pretty interesting programs that are going out. You can do there are some pods where it's like $100 a day for watching one student, but there are also pods where a bunch of families pull together, and instead of paying daycare, they all pitch in like $1,000 a piece, and they pay for the teacher's salary and their healthcare for the month, which is pretty appealing. It'd be like $3,000-$4,000 a month plus healthcare, which is pretty eye-opening. But I do see from the teacher perspective and from the legality perspective, I don't know how that truly works full time. Like what happens if they are not happy with the teacher gets laid off. That one private school teacher that put their neck out now doesn't have a job for the year. And where are they getting the curriculum from? Like, are they getting it from MCPS and putting that out there? Like, I just don't know how that goes. And the final legality portion is just growing up, my mom was a daycare mom. I'm pretty sure that as a group of larger than 5 or whatever that number is, it breaks that threshold in Montgomery County where it becomes a daycare center. We have to get certified in. Is it just one? Is that what the number is?
One person, yes.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Ridiculous.
Well, yeah, it's crazy. Times have changed. Like my mom was running daycare for years, and she had to get CPR trained and how to take fingerprinted and all these different loopholes, not loopholes, but benchmarks she had to break in order to become a at-home daycare mother. So it's pretty interesting.
I was going to ask. Go ahead.
There's, I just want to add to what George said. That's a very, very valid point. There is health issues with children that, like you said, someone who needs to be able to administer CPR or nebulizer or EpiPens, etc. That aside, if you look at even like the pods themselves, there's various levels of pods. I have seen some of my friends from Facebook or other community pages request just as someone who's a paraeducator who doesn't actually need to teach my child, but there'll be 5 kids. Just make sure that they focus on the Zoom class. Just make sure that they are paying attention, not fighting with each other. Just someone who's making them be in class, and which I think is another level of pod. So this is like where they don't want someone who's following the curriculum, who's making sure your child is getting the education. So this is kind of how do you call it? It's a step down from a full-time tutor type of pod. So there is that too, by the way, which I have actually more, I think that's more appealing because at least my child is in MCPS and I'm working. I can't watch my first grade child paying attention to her teacher all the time. So I have this person who is helping me make sure my child pays attention to the class that's going on. So, or gives them a snack and make sure that, they're not disturbing me and helping me during the school hours. So that's another pod, by the way. And I do not know the regulations of those kind of para educators, whether they should have some kind of basic health training, basic educational level. I don't know the regulations, but that exists too.
All right, I think Erica, time for regulations. What did you find?
Oh, I found that in the state of Maryland, pods are illegal. Like they really just are not budging with this. So as I said, I saw people posting that, and then I was like, let me just reach out to Maryland State Department of Education myself. And I did, and what I received back was just shocking. If you have one child in your house for over 20 hours a month, you have to register as a family child care center in the state of Maryland. So even a grandmother who's watching their, grandkid for like over 20 hours a month or something. I mean, there's regulations around that. It's ridiculous. And so, my situation was similar to what Dr. What is her name? Sorry, what she just mentioned. Like, yeah. Sorry. So I was I'm working from home. My husband works from home. All the other families, we're all home. We're in the home. We're working from home. We just needed somebody. Our kids are following MCPS schedule. The virtual curriculum. We just needed somebody to make sure the kids are following along while we're working our jobs from home. they're saying that that's even illegal, even if we're in the house. That does not make any sense. To me, that's absurd. That's not childcare if you're in the house. I just need somebody to make sure my child stays on task. And they're saying that you have to sign, even if we are rotating homes, each house has to sign up as a family childcare center. Like, this is insane. This does not make any sense. And it takes, to register as a family childcare center takes months. And this is a temporary solution just to, address the need while the schools are virtual. It does not make sense to have to register as a family childcare center when you're just looking for a simple solution while you're in the house too. Like, to me, it doesn't make sense, but this is what they're saying. And there was a meeting today with the OCC. Those are the people that license the home childcare centers. And it was brought up because I submitted that question to them. Like, is there a waiver? Can you grant a waiver in these cases? We're home. We're not looking for childcare. We just need somebody in our home, and we need to just help our kids with this online instruction. And they're saying, oh, that's still illegal. They were not budging. They're not going to offer any waiver. And they're saying they're going to cut down on this. They're fining people up to $5,000, and they're going to be seeking out anybody who's creating pods and, regulating this. So I'm just really upset about all of this.
Yeah. So first of all, I mean, how is it over 20 hours for? So even if
because the school day is 9 to 3:15, that's the MCPS schedule, 9 to 3:15 Monday through Friday.
But if you had somebody for 4 hours a day, and you had 4 different homes, you could
No, that's
have
6.
20 hours. Technically, you could have 20 hours in each home, and then that'd be okay.
But see, that's if you have a lot of people. I wanted to keep it very small. If you yeah.
So
just
that's
like
the
one other
question.
family.
How many did you have?
No, I just wanted to have split it with one family or 2 families, just 2 families. That's it.
How many kids?
Just 3 kids.
3 kids. Okay.
Yes. That's
So
it.
I've seen that some pods go up to maybe even 7 or 8, but I think most experts are saying that less than 5 is the optimum number. So instead of 3, if you had 4, and if you did say 9 to 1, and the
But the
last
school day, that's not the whole school day though.
I know, I understand that. But as a workaround, right? If they are saying it's 20 hours limited to 20 hours, then
A month.
then you keep a log of the 9 to 1 for or maybe you do 9 to 3 for 4 hours a day, and then on Friday you don't do it. Or in any case, there'll be an off day on Wednesday, right?
Right.
So maybe there's
I'm sure the workaround is possible, but do you know why the regulation exists? Is it because to protect the safety of the child? Like, is it a liability if you're if you're in the house? I'm just trying to. I mean, I'm sure there was a reason why this was this.
No, they're saying it's if another child that's not your own child is in your house. So you can't have another child that's not your own child for over 20 hours a month is what the regulation is. So once it's over 20 hours, that's considered a child care center. If you have a child that's not of your household in your house, that's the regulation.
Well, there's a reason for the regulation. You want the child care centers to be regulated. You don't want unregulated, rampant unregulated child care centers. Though we know that they exist, right? I'm wondering if there is if folks are coming up with
but the interesting thing is they lax this. So back in March, when everything shut down, Governor Hogan gave an executive order where he relaxed this regulation, and they allowed up to 5 school-aged children. It was under family and friend care. They allowed these pods to exist with up to 5 children. So you could do this little rotation, this exchange. This was March. Under Hogan, that child care executive order. But then it expired in July, and they made it clear that that's no longer relaxed. That regulation is no longer being honored, and now these no more family friend care. You have to be licensed. This was July 20th. They took that back. And it's interesting that they did that right before they announced, like, I don't know what the dates are that they announced that the schools were going 100% virtual, but it was like around then, because I tracked the history of this. It was right around then that they said, no, you can't do this anymore.
I'm sure it was thought. It wasn't
It was
just a
just
chance.
coincidental.
I'm sure. I don't think it was a
I think
coincidence. I
said
think it was
in
planned.
July.
Yeah, it makes sense too. I think they want to, they would, I mean, just thinking about it, in my mind, it makes sense because they don't want somebody else's child to be liable to somebody else's child's safety. And I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm in total agreement with that. And that's another reason why I'm kind of not there with the pods, to be honest. But what's the alternative, right? Like that's the question.
Well, the alternative now for me is I'm going to have to struggle with trying to work full time. My husband trying to work full time, and they just leave them to figure. I mean, I have to work with them as best I can to try to make sure they stay on task. I don't know how well that's going to go. It's probably going to be a disaster, but it is what it is. I mean, unfortunately.
Yeah. So this is very interesting. So we say that this is an unprecedented time, and then we don't, we say we have to have these, very difficult and strict standards. And absolutely, those standards are completely understandable because you don't want, mistreatment and mismanagement of childcare centers. So, Asha, are you able to join? All right, we'll give her a little bit more. I think she's putting her daughter to bed, and as soon as she can, she will. So in terms of, is it possible? Have you heard, Sai, of any contact tracing or testing that? I mean, did you go through all of that? Did you think that, oh, if we had to do that privately, how would we do it? What would be the protocol? Anything? Did you go down that path at all?
Not really. Like I said, if we were in this point having this discussion in November when the pandemic was still unfolding, it would make perfect sense. But we are over that. We are, we know about, what's the count? I forget. More than 5 million are positively tested already. And we don't know, there's a lot of asymptomatic positive cases. So that makes contact tracing and tracking a moot point, so to speak, because you really don't know who you're interacting with. Although, like I said, we now know more than we did in November, that 6 feet distance makes you, safe. Mask makes you safe. Washing hands makes you safer. So these are things that people know, and they're probably following most of them. So that makes, again, tracking and tracing a little tough, because when you ask somebody, especially a child, where were you? What did you touch? They'll be like, oh, I didn't touch this. I didn't touch anything. I know it because I have a 6-year-old who picks up everything off the floor and straight goes to her mouth. And I say, what did you do? And she says, nothing, nothing. So it's kind of hard. And at this point, again, in the pandemic, it's even harder, because you don't know who is at what stage, who is, even people who have recovered are more, more safer. They're keeping themselves safe, staying away, wearing a mask. And again, the research on people who have recovered is still coming out, saying how long are they protected? We don't know that yet. So those are.
I've been saying only 3 months now. I think they're saying
so
only 3 months.
They've revised that. So that's been revised since it came out. They're saying it's longer. Again, we don't know how longer. So those are issues, and that makes it very complicated.
It is. George, can you say when you decided that there was a need out there, that that students were going to need help outside of what the schools were going to be able to do in the virtual setting? How did you realize that? And when did you come to that realization?
Yeah,
Do what you did.
Yeah, so one of my best friends from high school, she is a staff developer at Springbrook High School, and basically her and I have been friends for a very long time, and she's a mother of 4, and she has kids all throughout elementary school, and she sends her kids to social groups in the pool and so on and so forth. And as MCPS was going back and forth on what they were going to do upcoming fall,
Right.
parents became anxious. They didn't know what to do. So basically what my friend did is she created a Facebook group. It was basically like a Facebook family group, like parents of elementary school children. And the question kept coming up over and over again. What am I going to do? How am I going to support them? Looking for pods actively was a very hot topic as well.
Right.
And basically she reached out to me. She was like, George, like, what are we going to do? Like, how can we help them? Like, you're a department head. I'm a staff developer. We know what we're doing. We know we can get some people together and make it happen.
Right.
And basically it's been pretty hectic. It's been pretty fast and furious. A lot of parents really need some support. And we just felt that the virtual platform would be a safe option for them. But I would say around July, basically when MCPS was waffling back and forth with the fall program.
Correct. So in fact, if MCPS had decided firmly, and they perhaps would not have been the need for it, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, well, actually, let me take that back. I know like my brothers both have kids in Montgomery County Public Schools too, a couple in middle school, a couple in elementary school. And they're mechanical engineers. They're really business motivated. They're hard workers. And I always assumed that they would send their kids back to school because they would just go back to school because they had to work. It was very important for them. But then after talking to them, they were very concerned. They were scared to send their kids back into the public schools because they were afraid the virus would spread again and spread the disease. And that caught me off guard because I didn't see my brothers, having that point of view. But after talking to them, their big fear was the long-term effects. Like, obviously COVID can infect people, and, maybe a young child, maybe it doesn't affect them as it does to an adult or a senior, but you never know. We don't know as a society what happens 3-4 months from now after this disease.
Sure.
And as a teacher, I was concerned. Like I'm in my mid-30s. I'm not necessarily scared of the disease and passing away from it, but I was, I think as a group, if we go back full steam into a school, like my school has 1,000 kids. My wife is a teacher as well, 3,000 kids in that high school. So basically, like we put all the social distancing and quarantine into place. If we just kind of throw everyone back into the school building again, it would all be for naught. I feel like we'll just kind of open up again. So that's kind of my concern. And I teach at the middle school level, and I love being a middle school teacher, but we know, they're running around, they're hugging in the hallways, they don't always follow the rules, they share a locker room, like it just. And I think initially there was a rule where the masks were not necessarily regulated. It was optional for the students to wear masks, which was scary for a teacher. So, that just a lot of those things came into my mind in regard to teaching in the fall. So.
Right. And in Georgia and in Indiana, as soon as they've opened schools, we've had COVID hotspots. I mean, I think that's a real danger. So when you started this, did you get a lot of traction already? I mean, do you have lots of kids signed up? How's that going?
So,
and what I want to understand really is where do parents see the greatest need that you're that you're filling?
Yeah, of course. So basically, we rolled out a 2-prong approach, just kind of seeing what would stick, right? So we basically offered like fun enrichment courses to offer like, kids have been teaching and learning all day long. How about an art class, a Spanish class, a mindful class? Try to like get your mind off of school and come in here and have a virtual fun session, right? We rolled that out, and that kind of got like lukewarm traction. But a lot of our traction has been the tutoring, online tutoring, and mostly in the reading realm. Like a lot of elementary school parents are coming to me, hey, basically, my daughter is, learning disability. She has tough time with comprehension. I'm worried she's going to have some big losses on the virtual level. How can you support that? Or, hey, my son is a special ed. He needs help with organization, keeping track of his assignments. How can you help me out there? So I think the two biggest like needs that I'm hearing constantly is special ed support, like support for organization, and literacy, like reading and building upon literacy for elementary school kids.
Okay.
And you're doing that virtually? You're doing the organization virtually?
We're doing it virtually. Honestly, this has just started. We rolled it out in early July. We're doing a lot of the reading comprehension now, but we are currently matching teachers with students right now for organization. And
is it in person? In person though?
No, it's all virtual.
All virtual. Oh, all in
Everything's
virtual. Okay.
And basically,
I I'm really appreciative of what you do, because as an institute I'm not representing my institute here as a person, but as an institute, that's something that we focus on. And I think more than a regular child, this pandemic has adversely affected more developmentally disordered kids or intellectual disability kids much more, because remote learning is really not a platform for those kind of special and challenged children. On the other hand, there is special forces like George mentioned, which are tuned to help those kind of children, and we'll know how much of an effect they have, I think, in this time on development of those kind of special abilities of children.
Yeah, I think Sunil's going to go down this path later on. I don't want to step on his toes, but I think there's
Yeah.
going to be some inequities coming up, and we're going to talk about that.
I think that's where we are. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is the issue at the bottom of this. And so I sent out that New York Times article on this, is that the concern now is, right, is that, okay, so those parents that can afford a pod and perhaps even be able to get state licensing for it, and go through that entire process, perhaps even hire a lawyer. So depends on how much resources you have, right? And so those families would be able to do what they want to, and others will not. And in the end, it's the people that have the money to do it, and those that don't have it. And in that, and so it really sets up a bad dichotomy, right? It sets up this thing where some kids are going to continue to move ahead, not as fast, I mean, everybody, but they're going to continue to move ahead, but others are going to not be, others are going to fall further behind. So my question, I think the big question is, from your points of view, where do you think, how do you think MCPS should react to this? I mean, does the school system have a obligation, right, to do something here? And what might that look like?
So I'm going to go first, Sunil, because I have been looking at this for a very long time. And I'll tell you one thing. I don't know why MCPS has not reached out to PBS. I don't know why MCPS has not reached out to a regular TV channel, which can broadcast different hours of different classes. Say, for example, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. is reading for kindergarten and first grade. Have their own pod, which is accessible for the whole state of Maryland. It doesn't have to be just Montgomery County. There's a lot of inequity with internet. There's a lot of inequity with availability of Chromebooks. There's a lot of inequity with a lot of digital literacy, where parents had to struggle to find out how they can provide Zoom classes to their children. Everybody in this country knows how to use the TV. Everybody has access to public TV channels. Broadcasting a teacher's class in a channel that is dedicated and available, accessible to every child, I think is the only way. And this is really something that I've been thinking a lot about. And that's why I'm here, because I think you can be the voice for something like this. That's one thing. Another thing is I don't know if you've been following news, there's many villages in India which don't have access to education. If you take many low and middle income countries, health equity is a daily challenge. There was one example of this village in India, which took out a chunk of time to broadcast lessons, math, reading lessons via a microphone into the central point of the village, where they announce like a fire or a flood or a cyclone or whatever for emergency purposes. And all the children would gather around or in safe distance and take notes for their lessons. That's how they got it done. I mean, it's analog, it's basic, it's easy, but that's one way we can eliminate equity. People who have access.
We won't eliminate it, but I love your broadcast idea. In fact, this is on my website as well. So the other thing, to MCPS's credit, is that they have actually supplied workbooks this time. So they
absolutely. No, I completely agree. No, that's a given. Yes.
Going down that, and MCPS, there are local access channels on television that absolutely can do this. and of course they have NCPS TV on YouTube. So, but
Yeah.
the thing is, it requires that kind of organization to be put in place to be able to do it. Who's going next? What is FCPS's role?
I want to jump in. So, Sai,
Yeah.
that's a fantastic idea. I love the broadcasting of the education. I saw it on social media, so I don't really know how true it is, but I heard some other countries are actually doing that currently right now. I believe Mexico is actually broadcasting educational channels, kind of getting things across like online, on TV to educate people, which I think that's a great, fantastic idea. In regard to support, I tip the cap to special ed teachers. They're working really hard in Montgomery County. Like it's inequitable for teachers. There's some teachers that are working hard in regard to just getting their lesson plans done. There's so many legalities in regard to what a student needs and all the paperwork and all that processed. I believe, I don't know the exact verbiage of it, but just working with special ed teachers on the leadership level, I know they're creating like distant home plans. They're creating plans, basically what they're doing, how they're supporting their students in a distant virtual setting and documenting everything. So there's a lot of paperwork that are creating barriers for how they support their kids. But I know talking with my leadership teams today, we're going to use these like social emotional, these check-in times during the fall to support our students in the fall, which I think is really great. On the secondary level, I don't know if you guys are I know Sunil's keeping track or keeping tabs of this, but at the end of the day, there's a 45-minute session, like 2:30 to 3:15. Currently, we're leaving that open, so it could be live check-ins for students coming to, meet for social studies, but they are non-optional for special ed. You're going to meet with your special ed caseload, work with them, support them, keep them on the right track. So I think there are plans in place. Every school is doing it at a different local level, so you're seeing flexibility and creativity. I know they're working really hard. To be patient with our teachers. I know they're working really hard.
Oh yeah. No, I absolutely. I mean, in all of this, I have to recognize that teachers have had the short end of this whole thing, right? We are not even sure how, we don't have a plan yet, until we won't have a plan until 5 days ahead before the school starts. I mean, that's ridiculous. So all of that actually really, makes it very hard for teachers to transition. But I love this idea of check-ins. My concern would be that whether whether the special ed caseload is manageable that way. I mean, the caseloads are huge, so I'm not sure. Setting aside 45 minutes may be enough. We don't know that, right? So I want to hear if you're a special ed teacher or a special ed parent, I want to hear hear from you. If you have comments on this, please do reach out.
I'm actually a special ed parent. Both of my twins have IEPs, but this will be their first year in public school. As I said, they were in private school. So the public schools did go to their private school and they provided like support. They would actually send somebody. So this is going to be really challenging for my kids this year, because I think that my daughter was diagnosed with autism in 18 months. So I have one daughter, my 5-year-old daughter is autistic. I think the kids with the developmental disabilities and who need those type of extra services, it's going to be hardest for them to do this virtually. That's one of the main reasons I had to get a one-on-one teacher. This teacher knew my daughter. She's worked with my daughter since she was 2 years old. So she knows how to work with her. My daughter was doing ABA therapy in the house too, up until everything shut down in March. So she regressed so much since March. She's totally regressed. It's very difficult not having, because autism is like a social, disability. So not having that social engagement and that type of support is really challenging. And I don't know how she's going to sit there from 9 to 3:15 on a computer. I'm gonna be honest. So I think they're talking about actually letting the kids with IEPs start coming into the schools first, like the first phase. I think that's necessary, because those are the kids that they're going to get totally lost, not having that one-on-one support and trying to get instruction virtually. It's going to be really challenging. And that's what I said, this is going to be a really challenging year for me.
So can I ask you, Erica, has anybody contacted you yet about what school is going to look like?
No, they haven't even contacted me about her IEP or anything about and as I said, they're just starting. So I guess the teachers are not back yet. So maybe when they go back, the special ed teacher will contact me about their IEPs, but nobody's contacted me yet.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a huge, it's going to be hugely important to bring back, IEP kids. And also I think, students that are simply not able to connect online from home. And those, so we have, so when, the plan that MCPS had, that had the draft plan when they said, when they were doing the hybrid version of it.
Yes, and I
they said-
signed up for hybrid, yes.
Yeah, K to 2 and 6 and 9. I thought that, that's not the way to do it. I think the most impacted kids need to come back first, and somehow we have to make that happen. Can you, as you investigated all of this, can you talk a little bit about cost and, what does it cost to have?
It's expensive. I was paying my teacher, the teacher have to pay $4,000 a month. I mean, she's a certified teacher.
Right.
And I mean, if it's just for my kids, that's out of my pocket, $4,000. That's a lot of money.
Did that include benefits, or just that's the?
So we were gonna do 1099. She was an independent contractor.
Okay, all right.
So she was gonna do her own. She had filled out the, what is it?
Right.
What is that form? A tax form. She completed all of that. Yes.
Anybody heard any other numbers? I mean, what are we talking about? Is there anything for a lower level for a step down, as you called it, Si? Did you think that it was going to be somewhat less expensive, or?
I've heard everything from $350 per week, $350 a week up until $1,000 a week.
Wow! And for how many students at a time?
So it's less than 5. Like Erica, exactly. I wanted a small, less than 5, only 3, possibly. So yeah, less than 5. So this is per child, not together.
Oh, right. What is your understanding of the cost, George?
Similar to what Erica was saying, I've heard both things. I've heard more like $100 a day if you want to go that route. But I think the standard practice is several parents pulling together, putting a package of around like $3,000-4,000, and then offering some sort of health benefits to go along with it per month. And I'm big on equity, and I feel like that's something that's important, but it's also unachievable for some families, which I think is very vulnerable in a virtual setting. So I don't know if we're going to go circle around and back to that, but that's something I'm worried about.
No, I absolutely want to. I mean, so the one part where sort of MCPS buildings are going to be used for pods are the kids after hours and BART programs that have been allowed to go back into the buildings. And so they are going to do that. But I believe so it's going to be interesting so a lot of parents are saying, well, if they can go back, then why can't, right? And so it's a fair question to ask. I think the logic there is that those programs can limit the number of students, but MCPS itself cannot limit. So if MCPS had a better count of where the students were, and better count of where the teachers were, who was available, willing to go back in, that census had been done instead of these surveys, I think we'd have been in a much better position. But right now, KH is doing that. And the thing about KH and Barty is that I believe KH president said that they were going to accept state of Maryland childcare subsidy vouchers. So in fact, if you had income below a certain level and you qualified for the Maryland childcare subsidy, then they would accept those vouchers. So in a sense, it sort of, addresses this equity piece.
That's a great
But
point.
it's still a lot of kids in one place. I think it's 14 kids with 2 teachers. I don't know. It just sounds.
Sometimes more, actually.
So I wish we could have that ratio in a regular school.
Right.
And then,
But
and
where do you draw the line too in regards to
Yeah.
the population, right? Sunil said
Exactly.
basically, is it going to be special ed kids? Is it going to be ESOL kids? Will it be farms kids, free and reduced lunch? Some schools have 90% free and reduced lunch, or 40% at the school that I'm at. So you have to kind of figure out what is the most important, which You can't, I mean, it's hard. It's a humanity issue. How do you know who to support and who to help at what time, you know?
Well, so actually, I have a plan. I've thought, I spent a lot of time thinking about this. So I think the first thing to do is to call back sort of IEP and not, so the IEP students that have the sort of small group instruction. So one-on-one IEPs, small group IEPs, those are absolutely the first, together with the list that, you know, of students that just are not logging in. Those are those, I think those two groups come in first, I think.
But that won't be my kids then. I mean, but those kids still, my kids would still need help, but they're in typical classes. I mean, my daughter's not even 5 and she's reading on a 2nd grade level. So, but the social issues, they will look at, people sometimes overlook the social deficits and they'll just say, oh, well, she can do fine she does fine in a typical class, but it's still not good for her to be so isolated like that. But they wouldn't bring her back because of that, because she's so high functioning.
Right, you're right, Erica. I mean, really, we do overall, not even in this context, but overall, we don't value social emotional learning at all in the way that we ought to. And I think that's been one big complaint of mine with, you know, the metrics that we use for success in MCPS, which is why, you know, one of the things I've really pushed hard for is, you know, more mental health and wellness support that we don't have. So, okay. But I do want to, I mean, I could go on and on about mental health, but I want to go back to the idea of pods. So in terms of when MCPS comes back, or maybe even, you know, sort of the first step, I think Dr. Smith said something about reconsidering after the first marking period or something, you know, and when they do you think a equity first approach works? And if that, and you know, what might that look like? I mean, Erica says, by my definition of equity, her kids are not included. So, you know, that's a fair, you know, response. Where would you all draw the line?
I think the younger kids should go back first. I mean, I would say, you know, as you said, small group, the kids who have the, you know, one-on-one IEPs or the, you know, contained classes, those kids that are in the contained classes, yes. But then like the kindergartners and the 1st graders, definitely kindergartners, because this is their first school experience. I mean, they need that social piece. So I think they should be in the first group to go back.
So the way I was thinking about it, and perhaps, and you feel free to disagree, is the way I was thinking about it is that once we did that group, and then once we hit general population, then we hit the, you know, you start at the bottom, you know, the lowest age group, and then sort of move up. And, you know, and infection wise also that makes sense, because I think the youngest kids are least likely infection, or maybe not. And I think that the research is changing so fast that even I can't keep up with it. So, you know, there's obviously
here.
Huh?
I said I love having Sai here. It's great.
I know.
I'm going to reserve my comments on this because without a vaccination, I completely am against any kind of group setting. That's just my personal stance. I don't think I can, more than children getting infected with each other, I'm scared of, you know, teachers, other staff members getting infected. We know that this virus passes through urine and stool and everything. So children cannot, I don't think the younger children are totally capable of, you know, containing their virus to themselves. So, and the school is definitely not, actually there has been an assessment on how much money you need to actually invest to be able to clean schools after every child has, you know, either touched a bench or touched the bathroom or touched the sink in the bathroom or used the faucets in the bathroom. And it's billions of dollars. It's just not even a viable situation. So that's where I reserve my comments. And this is not even talking about HEPA filters in the vents and the air circulation, especially coming winter, the hot air circulation and etc. So that's a whole other issue. And there's no way we can clean the schools fast enough for children to be safe and staff
Yeah,
to be safe.
yeah, absolutely. And the thing is that, the government it's not that the federal government is rolling out huge amounts of money to be able to do it. In fact, I think the CARES Act gave the county about $185 million, of which MCPS only got 25. So, it really didn't even get, usually, half of the county budget goes to the MCPS. But, this time for this, MCPS got a fraction of that. The state is not forthcoming. And the county county has a big rainy day fund, $500 million rainy day fund, and it's pouring right now. So perhaps they might use it, but they haven't. They haven't done that, and they don't. I don't think they're inclined to do that. I think they expect things to get worse, which is why they're holding onto their reserves. Is there an equitable way to do pods? Is there an equitable way to pods, or should we? Is this? Or are we all like Sai? We hope this will happen, and then we pull back and go, no, we're not going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, people would have to take risks if they do it. I mean, health risks, they would have to take legal risks. I mean, the only way they could do it is taking those risks. So if it's worth it to you, I mean, for me, no, at this point, yeah, I just have to make do. I can't afford to get fined. I don't want to take those risks. So.
Yeah, you don't want to be fined. I don't think. I don't think that would be. You don't want to break the law. I think.
Right.
I do not want to announce that he does that. Right. Are you all thinking about what have you thought through? I mean, so that the schedule is pretty clear now. I mean, even though it's not been approved by the board, the schedule is pretty clear. Are you at all able to adjust your work to that?
I mean, as I said, we work from.
George, you don't have any kids yet, right?
Okay. I don't know.
But teachers with kids was going to be a very, very important question. But go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead, Erica. I don't know if you were talking for a second.
Oh no, I mean, I can't adjust my schedule. I mean, our schedules. I mean, I work a typical 9-to-5 job. Yes, I work from home, but I have meetings throughout the day. I can't put, to support my clients. If a client calls a meeting at this time, I have to. That's my job. I have to. That's the priority. Right. So if my child is a live lesson at the same time, I mean, I have to work to pay bills. That's the lesson. The child's lesson is going to have to be in the back burner. I mean, that it is what it is. I can't.
I do sympathize. Obviously I'm a teacher and I have teacher friends and we all talk, and I just know that my friends just got slaughtered in the spring where they had the elementary live sessions in the morning and then they had to teach in the afternoon. They just felt very overwhelmed. They felt very stressed. And I know in the fall it's going to be pretty difficult starting at the exact same time. Like, how are you going to ask a kindergartner or first grader to log on a computer and jump on a Zoom and do all that while you're teaching simultaneously? So I know that's definitely intimidating to them. So I see where they're at. From a teacher's perspective, it's our schedule right now. I'm a little bit intimidated. I think I like the creativity. I like the thinking outside the box that we're going with, and I'm optimistic. I'll try my best. But one of my concerns is the adaptation to technology. I'm diving in. I'm getting ready for it. But how do you take lessons that you've been doing live in person and, hey, here's a group session. Here's a think, pair, share. Here, talk to your elbow partner type of lesson. And how do you convert that to the virtual setting? And it's going to be a learning curve. There's going to be some stumbles. I think Zoom in general, this whole new lifestyle that we have, you're stumbling across it and you're working through it. But it's going to be time consuming for teachers, and I hope people know that. Like I have to learn how to use Nearpod and basically develop it and take my lesson and add questions to everything and go that route. And the ideal game plan is to make a lesson that's engaging and socially interactive, because we do want our kids to be comfortable. I really think that's a social component is very important. I'm a kid-friendly teacher. I want my kids talking and laughing and having a good time. So that's what I aspire to do. I don't want to talk at them the entire time. I want them engaged in the class. And I think most teachers are buying into that, but I don't think they know how right now. So it's going to take some time to get it going.
Yeah. So it's called the flip class. You flip the classroom. That's been my experience. So what the delivery of material that used to be a classroom, right, is now it has to be done, on their time, and the time that they actually spend with you it looks very much like a old style classroom with and it's very hard now to think about how you're going to engage, how you're going to get them to talk to each other, and what if they go to breakout rooms,
Yeah.
right? The other thing I've heard a lot about now, and especially from students, is they don't want cameras on, because I've heard now from at home and outside of home that having cameras on for that long is exhausting, and sometimes people are coming in and out of their rooms where they are working. There is oftentimes people are shy about where they live and how they look, and whether their hair is done or whatever reason there is. But I think MCPS is going to mandate all cameras on now.
That's going back and forth, Sunil. You might know better than me, more in the inside circle, but I've heard it's been a back and forth issue, like maybe having a digital background to protect what the kids are behind them and so on and so forth. Just talking from a teacher perspective, obviously I love having the cameras on. I understand the privacy issues. I think most teachers have a warm heart, a bleeding heart. That's why we are in this job.
Right.
So basically we understand people are going through tough times, but at the same time, we do want to see them and talk to them. It's hard talking to a black screen. In the spring, I would have live Zoom sessions. I would have 4 to 5 kids in a class of 30. And I would sit there and it'll be all black screens and the same high flyer, straight A kids talking to me. But I want to talk to the kid I haven't talked to since March, and sometimes they don't even come in. So it's just something that I was concerned about. So
what did you do? I mean, when faced with a black screen like that? And absolutely, I agree with you. Teachers like to see student faces because that's what gives us a sense of student comprehension. So absolutely, I can see.
Yeah, and nonverbal cues, and like basically seeing if they comprehend things, or
Right.
smiling and laughing, you get to gauge all of that. Like you don't know what's going on with the black screen. I didn't push it. I'm like I said, I'm a kid-friendly teacher. I like to protect people. I don't want them to feel uncomfortable. So the screen was off. I kind of throw a little joke out there. Hey, jump on. Good to see you. Hi. Whatever. Say a name there. But kids did what they want, but they felt comfortable with, and they could.
Did that kind of break the shell? I have a very introverted 5th grader who's going into 6th grade, and I have seen her turn her camera off multiple times, and that bothered me a lot. And I would be like, "Your teacher can't see you." She'd be like, "She doesn't need to see me. She knows I'm here." And we had this back and forth. I'm an introvert, but I don't understand that. I have to see you to be able to talk to you and communicate to you, because I gain the temperature or what you're receiving from your face. And that's what it bothered me. And we did have a lot of arguments about this. And I saw her turn her camera off most of the time. And I don't know if she ever warmed up to the thought of letting her teacher see her.
Yeah, some students jumped in, but one thing I really want to push, especially if you're watching live on Facebook, is parents support teachers. Like in the spring, a lot of parents were like, "Oh, this, COL, this continuity of learning is worthless. It's falling apart. It's a broken system. Don't turn your cameras on, or you don't even have to check in." And they basically would say that to their students, and their students wouldn't find the authentic, they wouldn't appreciate this instruction. So if the parents tell their kids, "Hey, your teachers are trying, be engaged, turn your camera on," is very important. Like the kids read off of you. So if you basically support this and push it, I think there will be more involvement. And I think MCPS has taken the right approach by having authentic grades this fall. Like in the spring, it was pass fail. Having authentic grades basically will boost engagement, I think. Having attendance is mandatory. Attendance is it's like ambiguous right now. But basically, like if you're in Zoom or if you're present and actively engaged, that will be count as participation. But I do think, engagement was a weak link in the spring, and I hope it improves in the fall. And I hope these little new steps are putting in will work.
And how are they doing attendance? Is it for each class?
They're doing it for each class. I mean, what they're trying to do is they're trying to take a brick and mortar setting and put it in the virtual setting. You walk in, you take attendance, you teach a class with a warm up, you have interactive answer questions in a poll, you give kids time to work independently, you have them work in small groups, and come back together for a debriefing and an exit card. Like that's the dream game plan.
That's actually not a bad way to do it, to be honest. Like I've been thinking about how I do this, 2 weeks from now, and I've already told both my girls, like, we wake up like how we do, first day of school, you get dressed, you go outside, I take a picture of you, first day of school, and then you go in, have your breakfast, log in, and you are in school. I pack your lunch, it's sitting on the dining table, you eat a packed lunch at lunch break. So this is what we've been thinking of. I can't promise it's going to happen, but at least it's a working plan that we have, and we'll try to do it at least a couple of days. We always do this before school, even regular school, like right when summer is winding up, we try to get to bed earlier and try to tune up to waking up earlier for school, getting ready to, be in the school mode. So, so we are also in our work mode and they're in their school mode off of their summer mode. And so girls and I have been talking about this, and I think that has helped ease the stress of the first week of school, like regular times. And I can't say it's going to work this year, but we're going to try.
I give a lot of credit to the central office. So they're working really hard and helping us out. So like I said, I'm a department head, so I have these RT meetings in mid-July. They kind of teach, it's like a trainer of trainer models. They teach me what to do, and I pass it along to my constituents. And basically, they basically have like a minute by minute breakdown of what an ideal class should look like. And what they're doing for the fall is they are, instead of doing like a quiz assessment, like a 15-point multiple choice quiz, they're having performance-based tasks, which are essentially like small mini projects or UDL, Universal Design of Learning, where you basically are student choice. They produce products as opposed to a multiple choice test. So they're really big on the social component. They want kids in the classroom, but they also want them working privately. So like, hey guys, here's the warm up. You can turn your screen off now. Here's 15 minutes to work on your own. We're gonna come back in 15 minutes. So that's kind of the model they're pushing out. And I hope that it works. I think it'll be relieving for a teacher. I think it'll get some time for the students to process. And it's kind of that's my end game, and that's what I should be delivering in the fall. So ideally, hopefully it'll work.
I mean, all of that sounds very challenging for younger kids. I mean, I know you're addressing it from a middle school teacher point of view, but for a kindergartner who, if I have a meeting going on and I'm not able to be right there by my child, making sure that they're doing that project or even logging into the class at that moment, are they marked as like they're not there? Do they get marked down? I mean, how does that, because young children are going to need somebody there to do that for them, it sounds like.
Right. So as I understand, there are 3 ways in which attendance can be taken. So one is on the Zoom, another is by doing some work on Google Classroom. I beg your pardon, on my MCPS, on the classroom, and then I think there's a third way in which you can which
assignment completion to do it. It's getting your work done. I think it also counts as engagement.
Correct. But this, so I have a question for Erica and I have a question for George. So Erica, can you talk about a little bit about the structure you were thinking about now, especially since from the inception of the pod? Is there just Sai said that she has a structure? Do you think do you have a structure and do you want to do that? So that's my question for you. The question I have for George is, yes, I see on paper what MCPS is trying to do. My question is how deliverable it is right now. So maybe Erica, go first.
So the structure I had in place, I actually I converted my entire dining room into a classroom. So it looks like a full kindergarten class. My husband built desks for my twins. We bought them 32-inch monitors because the Chromebooks are only 11.6-inch screen. So it's very small for young kids to be engaged for that long period of time. So, I mean, we have a full classroom set up. So my original plan was to have the teacher just basically work with them and just make sure that provide that technical support, make sure they get logged on, make sure that they are paying attention to the teacher, their classroom teacher, making sure that, if they have any questions with what the teacher's saying, they should be able to, address, help them through those problems. That was the structure I had in place. So, and then when they had their breaks, she could take them outside, let them play outside on the playground, or, take them for a walk during those breaks.
Sure.
But without having help, I don't see any other, I don't know how that's going to work. I definitely need somebody to be there because of the ages. They're 5 years old.
Right.
A 5-year-old, if parents are working full time, they can't dedicate, it sounds like they need somebody to really be there the whole time of that virtual instruction, from the way I'm hearing of it.
This is a really, it's not a good position to be in.
It's not a good position to be in, especially when you have young children. This is really hard for working parents with young children, because they're going to need hands-on support. A 5-year-old cannot log into my MCPS classroom. They can't get on Zoom on their own, but somehow they can manage to get on Roblox all day and figure that out. But they're
I was just about to say, but the Minecraft, they're experts
they can
at
get on
that.
Minecraft and Roblox and every game in there and do the chats, but somehow they're not going to be able to get into the Zoom classroom. Trust me,
Erica, I completely empathize with every word that you've said, because when we went virtual in spring, I had no idea how to log in my kindergartner. Thank you for my 5-year-old who knew exactly what needs to be done, and her classes were later and the kindergarten was earlier. So she was the one who was logging my kindergartner in. And to this day, I don't know how to log in. I have no idea. I can do a lot of things. I can't log my kindergartner in. But once she was logged in, it was okay. So take it from a mom who's been there that they do okay. It's a rough
don't they have
start.
to log into each class? Each class?
No, it's just one login that goes on in a it's just one teacher.
The whole day.
The whole day. I don't know how it's going to be for the fall, but that's how it was in spring, and it was a short day too. It was only for a couple hours. So with breaks in the middle, the teacher was fantastic. She would say every 20 minutes, she'd be like, stand up, stretch your hands, let's do, it was engaging. So don't stress out, Erica. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to take all of it. George, what do you think? It's deliverable?
I do think it's deliverable. I do see where Erica's coming from. I totally understand and feel her concerns, and I hope it works out. I'm optimistic. I think students are like kids these days. It's a digital age. They're on their iPads all the time. They're on their computers all the time. They're constantly engaged and focused. So it's now the challenge of the teacher to make class engaging, right? So that's kind of what I think is going to be that next step. I think the method that MCPS is rolling out is doable. I just think it's now, you got to step up, teachers. You got to do what you got to do. Like, I'm excited. I want to ride with it. I want to go for it. I think that it can be creative. It can be fun. But basically, it's got to be the teacher. They got to, like, a strong, like, in the middle school level, you have PLCs, the professional learning community, it's your cohort. And essentially you have to have a strong cohort. Like, you have to lean on each other. Like, if you are not strong with technology, let the person that's strong with technology create that resource and share it with the group. Another person create the worksheet and all share it together and combine your resource. And I think if you can make it creative and engaging, students will want to be there.
How often does the cohort meet?
Like, in the brick and mortar setting, it's 3 times a week in the middle school level, and the digital setting, we're doing it twice a week now.
Twice a week.
High school is different. High school, they're kind of like independent contractors. They kind of meet if they like to meet. They kind of do their own thing, but every grade level is different. But middle school is 3, in the fall last year, 3 times, 2 in the digital setting.
What time do you meet? So you meet before school or after school?
Every school is different. So it depends on your breakdown and what your leadership team comes with. At my school, it's embedded within a school day. Every teacher teaches 5 classes and has 2 planning periods. One of those planning periods is typically a meeting. It could be like a team meeting talking about the social emotional being of your kids, or it could be a cohort planning meeting where you look at the curriculum and you roll out your plans. And in theory, like, in a dream scenario coming from a department head, people come in, they know what they're talking about. They backwards map. They know where the test is down the road. They build they look at their indicators. They build lessons to get there, and they just kind of have that downfield vision of where things are going. And hopefully, as a leader, I do a good job of my department, and hopefully everyone works on it together. And I think it is achievable, but I do think it's going to be a steep learning curve for teachers at first. I think it's going to be kind of hard for us.
Well, I know that I think parents are with you, and hopefully we will. I think communicating with parents, and so for example, you're telling us that, hey, talk to your kids about turning their cameras on is helpful advice. I feel like we haven't gotten that kind of expectation setting from MCPS before. So I think we have 5 more minutes to go. And something that came up and struck me, and I'm going to ask you about this. Do you worry about the amount of screen time? That is, I know these kids are all digital, and I know, so now we have 5 hours, 4 hours of screen time learning, perhaps even more, right? And then, in secondary school, you have homework, right? And then you have recreational use of screens. So, for me as a dad, I have to think about whether I'm going to cut back on the recreational side of things. And if I do, I mean, am I taking away? Am I sort of punishing them for something that they did not do, right? And so, are you concerned about screen time? What do you do about it?
I'm very guilty of allowing my kids a lot of screen time normally. Well, during the summer, that's the only thing that's helped me survive, like being able to get my work done.
Don't be. I think social media has pushed us all into being guilty about it. We need to have some sanity. That's
the only way I've been able to work this summer. I mean, my kids have their little their iPads and they play Roblox or Minecraft, or they watch something on YouTube. That allows me to actually work. It's not a good thing. I definitely don't think it's a good thing, but it's what I've been able to do. They're not in school right now. I don't have childcare. I'm working.
In a day, how long are they on screens, do you think?
Oh my goodness. Probably I usually work from like 8 to 5. So most of that time they're on their devices. Most of the time. That's terrible.
And then it's done, right?
Terrible.
Nothing in the evening. No devices in the evening, right?
No, in the evening. So, but even before, I try to get them up. I take them outside. We go for a walk before I start working. And then in the evening, when I get off of work, I try to take them out and play with them outside, let them get in the pool or do something. But it's still too much. I know, but I don't.
Yeah. What about you, Sai?
So one thing I really liked about MCPS, the way they did it in spring, which was the first thing I thought of, was, are they going to be on screen all day and all night? And no. So a lot of homework is to be printed out and done on paper, even for kindergarten. So I was very happy with that. I had to buy a printer, I had to buy paper, that's fine. But I was very happy that they could actually write and do math, like even kindergarten math was on paper. Having said that, I have a very strict screen time rule in the house, and their iPads have screen times, and they really have to do a lot of chores if they want extra screen time. They have to read a certain number of pages to get extra screen time. So there's a lot of, as you can see, I'm huge on putting things in place so that they will do it. If they want screen time, if they're bent on it, they will do all their chores and they'll say, I want extra screen time, and then they get the screen time. So we have, so far it's worked, and I don't know when. So this was one of the questions my 10-year-old has asked me. How long will I have screen time? How old will I be? And I said, never. You'll never get like no access, like all the time screen time. It's never going to happen. As long as you live under this roof, you'll always have a limit on screen time.
Joke. Shout out to Indian parents. George?
I think it's important to basically monitor your mental health and monitor your screen time. It's fatiguing. Like today, I had a meeting from, I believe, 9 to 12, and I was talking to Sunil before. I was like, hopefully I can attend this session tonight because I was just so tired. But I I respect Sunil and I wanted to be here to support him. But
Well,
like,
thank you.
it's, you have to take the time to be for yourself. You have to go for walks and go for hikes. I do think that kids should be mindful of that. Montgomery County is building in social emotional learning pieces to kind of yoga and meditate and to take some breath. They're having an extended lunch period during the middle of the day to not only pick up food from the school sites, but also just to lay off the computers, which I think is important. And just, teach your children that, like, obviously they read off of you. If you constantly encourage, hey, it's important to watch TV, they'll do that. Hey, it's important to be mindful, go take a walk. It's healthy for you to do that. They'll do that too. And I do think it's important, but all of us, I think we're all on screens too much. I'm thinking about getting there's a blue light, like UV, like lenses. I don't know if you heard that when we're on digital screens all day long. I'm actually considering that because I'm on all day long. So something to worry
Yes,
about. So.
you should get it. You should get one. It really helps.
I think
Yes,
so.
I have one.
Yeah, but Erica's problem is real. Erica's problem is real. She has to work.
Yeah,
so-
but we did put limits on the type of games. So for Roblox and Minecraft, which is their major addiction, we did limit those. So they have to spend time doing like ABC Mouse or Starfall, educational things. We also limited the kids' YouTube too. So there are limits, but it's still screen time because
Yeah, this is a dilemma for a lot of parents. Well, any last comments, anybody? All right. Well,
I just have one.
Okay, go ahead.
It's okay. We're all gonna have good, healthy kids. It's all gonna work out in the end. We're all in this together. So I think it's gonna be fine.
Hey.
And I think Sunil will agree with me.
Yes, I do agree with you. I do agree with you. In fact, I pulled back from in my particular case, I pulled back from a lot of the scaffolding that I had provided when school was actually on. And by pulling back, I think I have encouraged my kids to learn by themselves. And my kids are older than yours, right? So they are more self-learners now. They are much more better. They are better organized about their time. But I had to pull back. I had to resist myself from going more in and sort of say no. I'm gonna let them do and learn. So I tell them, learn how to be bored, learn how to fail, learn how to learn. Those are my three big things. All right.
Can I jump in? One last thing, Sai? I agree with what Sai was saying before. We are all in this together. And the biggest thing with all this virtual platform is patience and flexibility for all of us, right? For the kids, as teachers, when we're accepting assignments, turn the blind eye if it's a couple hours a day or too late. We have to support our kids. Parents support teachers. We obviously care. We took this job for a reason. We're doing the best we can. It's difficult. We're learning a completely new job. I'm 15 years into teaching. It's my first day of school digital. It's going to be different for me too. So we're all learning this together. So patience and flexibility. We are all in this together.
Well, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night. Bye.